Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back. Listen, today we are talking about factoring trinomials completely with no greatest common factor. All right, you can do that, and you do have to recognize that. And guess what? The good news is it's easy. Now, we talked about factoring completely already with perfect squares, and I'll put a card up at the top for that if you need to see that lesson again or even for the first time. The most important thing, guys, when you are factoring completely, we are always, always, always factoring twice. I can't stress that enough. Whenever you see these words factoring or factor completely, guys, you're going to factor twice, whether it's on a Regents, state exam, whatever it is. So let's look and see how these problems look, because guys, they're super easy. You already know the rules and how to solve them. So it says, and this is how you'll see it on the Regents. It'll say this. It'll say factor completely the expression, and they give you the trinomial x to the fourth minus 10x squared plus 24. Well, notice there's no greatest common factor here, guys. So the first thing you need to do is two sets of parentheses, which we talked about in previous factoring lessons. And I'll put a card up at the top for you if you need. And like the other lessons, guys, first sign always goes to the right still. That doesn't change. And we look at the second sign. Now, we learned in the previous lessons when factoring trinomials that if the second sign is a plus, that means your signs in the parentheses, guys, are always going to be the same. And I'm just writing this out for you so you could study that and memorize it. So if this is a minus, this has to be a minus. Now, square root of x to the fourth is x squared. And now, like always before, guys, you got to factor 24. We know how to factor 24, all right? 1 and 24, 2, 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. And remember, whoops, that looks like a 9. 4 and 6. Oh my God, my handwriting's getting crazy. Sorry, guys. Okay, so we also know, guys, if you need your calculator to find your factors, you certainly can do that, right? And we'll go over a problem like that to review those buttons. Now, when you have a plus sign here, guys, you add factors. Well, let's do that. I'm looking for a 10. 1 plus 24 is 25. That doesn't work. 2 plus 12 is 14. That doesn't work. 3 plus 8 is 11. That doesn't work. 4 plus 6. That gives me 10. That's what I want. So my 4 goes here. My 6 goes here. Remember, smaller number always goes first. Now, in the previous factoring trinomial lessons, we were done at this point. But because it says factor completely, guys, you have to factor twice no matter what. And if you look carefully here, notice one of these is a perfect square binomial. And that's this one right here, the x squared minus 4. X squared is a perfect square, you have your minus sign, and 4 is a perfect square. Notice in this binomial, 6 is not a perfect square, so it does not work. This can be broken down one more time. So what do? We open up another two sets of parentheses. And now you got to go back to your factoring perfect square rules. Minus sign goes to the right. Perfect squares, guys, the first sign's always plus. Signs are always different with perfect squares. Square root of x squared is x. Square root of 4 is 2. And then, guys, you have your second binomial here, x squared minus 6. That just comes down. X squared minus 6. And, guys, that is how you factor trinomials completely without a greatest common factor. X plus 2 times x minus 2 times x squared minus 6. Let's look at another one. Okay, sometimes what the Regents will do is they'll break up the words and they'll say factor the expression, and they put completely at the end. Maybe, you know, if you don't read the whole thing, you'll miss it, right? But it still says factor completely, so we know we have to factor twice. So once again, your first step, two sets of parentheses. Guys, there is no greatest common factor here. And as always, first sign, no matter what it is, always goes to the right. Now notice this time the second sign is a minus sign, guys. That means signs are going to be different. Remember those rules for for factoring trinomials with subtraction. So to make these signs different, if this is a minus, this has to be a plus, okay? And now everything else is the same. The square root of x to the fourth is x squared. And now you want to factor 18. Let's say for a second you forgot the factors of 18. No problem, guys. You hit y equals. You put 18 divided by x into the calculator, and you hit second graph. You can find the factors of any number on the planet with this calculator. And of course, my factors are 1 and 18. Oh, went right to that. 2 and 9. And of course, 3 and 6, right? Right from my calculator. So again, there's no guessing with this either, all right? Now, since this is a subtraction sign, guys, that means you have to subtract your factors. We're going to subtract all of these. 18 minus 1 is 17. I don't have a 17 here. That's not going to work. 2 minus 9 is 7. I have a 7 there. Therefore, my factors are 2 and 9. We know 6 minus 3 is 3. That doesn't work. Remember, smaller number goes first, larger number goes second. Now, normally you're finished, but because it says factor completely, guys, you have to factor twice. I don't care what the Regents gives you for choices, okay? And now, when you look carefully, you'll notice, too, one of these can be factored again. And, of course, it's the x squared minus 9. And why is that? Because 9 is a perfect square. So once again, 2 sets of parentheses. I showed you how to factor perfect square binomials. And again, I'll put the card up at the top for that lesson. Minus goes to the right. First sign for perfect squares is always a plus in your parentheses. The square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 9 is 3. And then my x squared plus 2, guys, just comes down. And there you go. Your final answer, x squared plus 2 times x plus 3 times x minus 3. So guys, basically factoring trinomials completely without a GCF, it basically just takes the factoring trinomial rules we learned and then combines them with the factoring perfect square lesson we already learned. So it's just taking 2 lessons and basically putting them in one. It's making you factor twice. Let's look at another one. Same type of thing, factor completely. 2 sets of parentheses. First sign goes to the right. Second sign is minus. That means signs are going to be different. And I'll box it anyway, just to keep practicing and reinforce that. So therefore, this has to be minus, minus, plus. My signs are different. The square root of x to the fourth is x squared. Now, the good thing about 7, guys, 7 is a prime number. There's only one set of factors for 7. It's 1 and 7. 1 goes first, 7 goes second. And why does that work? Because, guys, you subtract, because of that sign. 7 minus 1 gives you the 6 you need, which is here. So therefore, 1 and 7 work perfectly. Now, when you're looking at this, you realize, wait a minute, it says factor completely. I got to factor twice. And of course, x squared minus 1 is a perfect square binomial, so we're going to factor that again. 2 sets of parentheses. Minus to the right, first sign's a plus. The square root of x squared is x. Square root of 1 is 1. And then, guys, your x squared plus 7 just comes down. Final answer, x plus 1 times x minus 1 times x squared plus 7. And there you go. All right, simple. Factoring trinomials completely without a greatest common factor. Let's do one more. Okay, factor the expression completely, and they snuck it in at the end this time. No problem. Okay, first step, 2 sets of parentheses, as always when there's no GCF. First sign to the right. Second sign is plus. That tells us signs are going to be the same. So if I have a minus here, I have to put a minus here. That's what the same signs mean. That's what they look like. Same signs in both parentheses. X to the fourth factors to x squared. Now guys, 48 has a ton of factors. It's always good to use the calculator. On the Regents, you have to use the calculator. You hit y equals. Put 48 divided by x. Hit second graph. You don't want to leave a factor out. You get 1 and 48. You get 2 and 24. You get 3 and 16. You get 4 and 12. And finally, guys, we get 6 and 8. A lot of factors here. So how do you know which ones work? Remember, well, when you have a plus sign here, guys, you add factors. We're looking for 19 when we add. 1 plus 48 is 49. That doesn't work. 2 plus 24 is 26. That doesn't work. 3 plus 16, guys, that is what gives us our 19. Boom. All right, and remember, 4 plus 12, right? That's not going to work. That gives you 16, right? None of these work. So smaller number goes first. 3. Larger number goes second. Boom. Okay. Now, normally you're finished, but because it says factor completely, guys, you have to factor twice always. Which of these is my perfect square? Well, 16 is the perfect square, right? We know that. 3 is not a perfect square, guys. 2 sets of parentheses. Minus to the right. First sign's a plus with perfect squares, as always. Whoops, let me do that. There you go. Square root of x squared is x. Square root of 16 is 4. And then, of course, x squared minus 3 just comes down. And guys, that's it. That is factoring trinomials completely without a GCF. Now, next lesson, we're going to factor trinomials completely with a GCF, all right? But as far as this lesson goes, that's all you have to do. Remember, whenever you see factor completely, you're always going to factor twice. All right, guys, so that's it. Basically, any questions, please email me. My email is in the description below. All right, comment below on what you liked, what you didn't like, what you possibly would want to see. Please subscribe, like, and share. And as always, guys, more importantly than any of this, please, to you, your families, and your friends, please continue to be and stay safe. I will see you guys on the next lesson.